us pray. Almighty God, the creator and owner of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our actions, so that we always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria in general and Lagos State in particular. Amen. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. You are all welcome to today's sitting. And also to apologize for cutting short your break. Also appreciate your quick response to the clarion call. Let us quickly go through the facts and proceedings of Thursday, 5th August 2021. ojú ìwé kẹtàdínlọ́rìnlélọ́ọ̀ọ́dúnrún kejìdínlọ́rìnlélọ́ọ̀ọ́dúnrún Honorable Rahim.
Ẹ ṣé olùdarí, mo rí orúkọ mi ní àwọn tí kò wá, mo gba ìyọ̀ǹda látọwọ́ yín ṣàkín tó lọ síbi àṣeyẹ tí àwọn tí director fire wọ́n ṣe ní ọjọ́ náà sà.
Akọ̀wé àgbẹ̀lọ́ àṣàtúnṣe aṣòfin Ọláwálé.
Ẹ ṣé olùdarí, ẹ káàsán ẹ̀yin ẹlẹgbẹ́ mi. Èmi náà mo gba ìyọ̀ǹda nítorí ìjọ yẹn ni a ṣe sẹ́mínà fún àwọn local government chairman. Ẹ ṣé sà.
Kọkàndínlọ́rìnlélọ́ọ̀ọ́dúnrún ọ̀rìnlélọ́ọ̀ọ́dúnrún ojú ìwé kọkànlélọ́ọ̀ọ́dúnrún Reserving the votes and proceeding of Thursday, 5th August 2021, and approval is here granted. Any message from the Governor?
Right Honorable Speaker, sir. Distinguished Honorable Members, there is no message from the Governor.
Any other announcements?
Yes, sir. The Right Honorable Speaker, sir. Distinguished Honorable Members, we received 2 letters from the Office of the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. With your kind permission, sirs, I read. The letter dated 3rd August 2021 read, a bill for a law to prohibit open cattle grazing in Lagos State, the trespass of cattle on land, and other connected purposes. Further to the approval of the State Executive Council at a meeting held on Monday, 22nd August 2023, Mr. Governor directed that a bill for a law to prohibit open cattle grazing in Lagos State, the trespass of cattle on land and other connected purposes be forwarded to the House of Assembly for consideration and enactment. You will recall that on the major resolution of the Southwestern Governors Forum is that all states in the Southwest must pass a law prohibiting open cattle grazing by September 2021. In line with the said resolution, Mr. Governor has requested that you kindly expedite action on the legislative process for the passage of this bill so as to meet up with the September deadline. Attached is a copy of the bill and the executive rationale for the proposed legislation signed Muyosore Onigbanjo, SAN, Attorney General, Commissioner for Justice. Another letter dated 31st August 2021, addressed to the Right Honorable Speaker, is titled The Lagos State Value Added Tax Bill 2021. The above reverse, please. Further to approval of the State Executive Council at a meeting held on Monday, 30th, 2021, Mr. Governor has directed that the Lagos State Value Added Tax Bill 2021 presented on the floor be forwarded to the House of Assembly for consideration and enactment into law. Attached herewith is a copy of the bill and justification for onward legislative progress. Please accept the assurance of our warmest regards. Signed, Mr. Muyosore Onigbanjo, SAN, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. Thank you very much, sir. That is all, sir.
Petitions?
There is none, sir.
Matter of urgent public importance? None. Personal explanations? Reports? Honorable Okola.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, In the course of our recess, we lost the king of Oworonshoki, Oba Bashiru, Olontoyin Saliu, Olontodupefu the first. So I want to thank Mr. Speaker for giving me the opportunity to bring to the notice of the House and at last to the public the demise of the chairman of Obas and Chiefs in Council of Koshofe constituencies. Our late King Oba Bashiru Olontoyin Saliu, who departed this sinful world on the 30th of August 2021. In his lifetime, Oba Olontoyin Saliu was committed to the development of socio-economic activities in the Oworonshoki Kingdom and the last Koshofe local government. To his credit, Mr. Speaker, he played so many roles in the peaceful coexistence of Koshofe land. He played a prominent role in siting the first ever fire service station in Koshofe constituency 1 by donating 2 plots of land for that cause. He also, in so many ways, partnered with investors to bring about socio-economic development in Koshofe land. He was truly a resourceful and highly influential personality. He joined his ancestor on the 30th of August 2021. He was survived by his wives and children, amongst who is our incumbent vice chairman of Koshofe local government, and another of his children is the councillor of Ward B in Oworonshoki. I'd like to seek that this House honor him with a minute silence and also forward a letter of condolence to the family and to the people of Koshofe local government, while I also want to pray that Almighty Allah accept his return, forgive his iniquities, and grant him a Jannat Firdaus. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Now, can we please rise for 1 minute silence in the honor of the Maiskabies? May it still rest in perfect peace. Mr. Clark, kindly forward a letter of condolence to the family. Our business of the day, Deputy Majority Leader.
Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, business of the day. House of Assembly Bill number 34, supported by Honorable Agunbiade SOB, Majority Leader, Honorable Adams MB Etiosawan, Honorable Mrs. Miranda ML Apapa 1, Honorable Mrs. Shangudara MR Surulere 2, Honorable Joseph K.
Can you take it, please, slowly? Huh?
Okay,
please.
Sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Honorable Joseph K.O. Alimosho 2, Honorable Ogundimu O. Agege 2, Honorable Kazim R.A. Ibejuleki 1, Honorable Makinde R.L. Ifakojaye 1, Honorable Afini O.S. Lagos Island 2, Honorable Tijani S.O. Ojo 2. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I move that prohibition of open cattle Grazing Bill 2021 be read for the first time. I so move.
Honorable Wale Temitokwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise second the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, sir. It is a privilege and honor to read for the first time the Prohibition of Open Cattle Grazing Bill 2021 for the first time. Thank you very much, sir.
Deputy Majority Leader.
Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, House of Assembly Bill number 35, supported by Honorable Agumbiade SOB, Majority Leader, Honorable Adams MB, Etiosa 1, Honorable Mrs. Miranda ML, Apapa 1, Honorable Mrs. Shongudara MR, Sululere 2, Honorable Olowo RE, Shomolu 1, Honorable Olumo SL, Ajiromi Ifelodu 1, Honorable Makinde RL, Ifakojaye 2, Honorable Shola Jasaka N, Ikorodu 2, Honorable Idimogu JE, Oshodi Isolo 2, Honorable Layode IO, Badagry 1, Honorable Oshun MO, Lagos Mainland 2, Honorable Engineer Ishao GOR, Etiosa 2. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I move that Lagos State Value Added Tax Bill 2021 be read for the first time? I so move, sir.
Honorable Council.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker. Distinguished honorable members, it is a great honor and privilege to read for the first time the Lagos State Value Added Tax Bill 2021. Thank you very much, sir.
Deputy Majority Leader.
Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, House of Assembly Bill number 34, supported by Honorable Agumbiade SOB, Majority Leader, Honorable Adams NB, Etiosa 1, Honorable Mrs. Miranda ML, Apapa 1, Honorable Mrs. Shongudara MR, Surulere 2, Honorable Joseph KO, Alimosho 2, Honorable Ogundimu O, Agege 2, Honorable Kazim RA, Ibejuleki 2, Honorable Makinde RL, Ifakojaye 2, Honorable Afini OS, Lagos Island 2, Honorable Tijani SO, Ojo 2. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I move that a bill for a law to prohibit open grazing in Lagos State, the trespass of cattle on land and for other connected purposes be read for the second time. I so move, sir.
Honorable Tijani So.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I read the second motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Speaker.
Please, take your seat, Honorable Yusuf.
Oh.
Mr. Clerk.
It is a great honor and privilege to read for the second time a bill for a law to prohibit open grazing in Lagos State, the trespass of cattle on land, and for other connected purposes. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that is long be expected, and I think it's better that we take it promptly and pass it to law. Mr. Speaker, the damages that the open grazing activities has caused the farmers in the southwest is enormous, very, very enormous. Today for the farmers, they could not even go more go to their farm, not to talk of producing farm produce. It has reduced drastically the food supply in the market, simply because farmers will borrow money from the market and from the banks, and they invest this on the farm. But the cattle, they will just move to their field and eat it all. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, a lot have been said about the activities of those who are rearing these animals. As a result of that, people are afraid of their life of going to the farm. As a result of this, there is a scarcity of food supply in the country, especially the West. And Lagos here, Mr. Speaker, where you could even see cattle moving along long bridges, causing damages, causing accidents, embarrassing people, entering into the market. And you know, in Lagos State, we fear cattle more than we fear vehicle, because when you see them, students, while running for the cattle, they injure themselves. As a result of this, Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that's highly very important. But this bill creates a very important, and that is what they call cattle ponds. It's an innovative. That if you want to, the government has created on spot where those who have this animal could register, and failure to register it, there are a lot of things that is embedded in the bill. Mr. Speaker, one area that I'm so specifically about is Section 4. That's for cattle rearers to take firearm along. It attracts 21 years. Then for other dangerous weapons, 7 years. That is the area, Mr. Speaker, I want us to consider. For you carrying firearm, 21 years. Very okay, very good. It will serve as a lesson for them. But for other dangerous weapons, with intent of injuring other person, then attract only 7 years. Mr. Speaker, I want this one also to be graduated for more years imprisonment. So, Mr. Speaker, with this one, I think this law is highly very important. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. The bill is apt and very important. The last time we had a discussion in respect of what transpired between the Southern State Governor, which one of the resolutions was that all the states must pass the law in respect of the open grazing. And to God be the glory, we are having the bill now. Open grazing in 21st century is an aberration. It is not done anywhere. We have some of our friends that have their own farm, they rear cattle, they are doing it within the confine of their own compound. So this bill is going to help in correcting many things. Number one, the bill will continue to promote a peaceful coexistence in the state. Number two, this bill, after passed and the governor append his signature to it, is going to help us in no small measure in controlling the activities of the herders. Is going to reduce crime, and by reducing crime is going to enhance the economic activities of the state, most especially that has to do with agriculture. The bill will reduce the incidence of cattle-related road accidents, as been said. One other advantage of the bill, even though the animal bill that we have passed here, this particular bill now it is very specific and emphatic in respect of the cattle
rearing. It will foster crises between the herders and the farmer. The 21 sections of the bill is going to assist in no small way to bring a very cool, peaceful existence to the state. I'm in total support of the bill. Like being said with the other time by Honorable Bisi Yusuf, when you even look at some of the interpretation, there was one there, law enforcement officer, which means Nigerian Police, Neighborhood Watch, and Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. I believe there they are not the only law enforcement agencies that we have in the state, and other law enforcement agencies that we work together in bringing the law to be more active. And lastly, I will implore the government, they should pursue the bill with vigor through lawful means to ensure strict compliance with the law, with the bill when it's passed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sir.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, sir, and my fellow colleagues. This bill is well intended, and if it is passed, like my colleagues have said, will bring solutions to the menace that is ravaging us in this country as we speak at the moment. I know that the bill is it has 21 sections, and it speaks to various aspects of grazing cattle widely. Of importance to me, sir, is the issue of enforcement of the penalties for the offenders. I know we have registers in this bill. It creates room for task force. Then it talks about first offender and second offender. But of most important to me is the issue of magistrate courts handling the offenses that are likely to emanate from the activities of the herders. And I wonder if the magistrate court has the jurisdiction to try murder cases that might emanate from this, whether magistrate court has the power to jail for 21 years and the like. So I would have loved to suggest that to fast track whatever offenses that could come out or that could emanate from this, maybe we'll take or look at high court to handle such matters, or the state create a special court to be able to prosecute any offenses that is emanating from this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Honorable Rao.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, as we all know that this bill is of unavoidable importance for the coexistence of our well-being. And going by these sections, I just want to mention some areas which the bill has perhaps whether silenced or has not been able to touch. Among this is the section 4, subsection 2, which says any person found to be in possession of dangerous weapon or object with intent to wound or cause grievous bodily harm. Going by the interpretation section, the meaning of dangerous weapon is not really defined there, because it is possible to see ordinary blade or knife with these cattle herders. So I think it has to be defined so that there will not be arguments. Then 2, if you go to section 8, impounding of cattle, subsection 2 of this section, you will discover that from beginning, so much efforts were made on the, the charges or what to be paid to governments, whether on the head of each cattle, without considering individual whose property would have been destroyed by this cattle. So I think effort should be made at this point to see what compensation can be made to individuals whose property would have been destroyed by this cattle. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Shah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, honorable colleagues. Well, the bill before us is a cogent bill, it's appropriate, and is actually expedient because it is a bill of circumstance. Lagos State is a cosmopolitan state, a metropolitan state, becoming a smart city as we have it, and having to see cattle on our roads being headed along, like my colleagues have said, can be very worrisome. This bill, as we say it, has the advantage of ensuring that future potential clashes will be nipped in the bud. It will also give us a level of food security because all the activities that we've been talking about lead to food shortage. Finally, it will help us reduce economic losses within our economy. Lagos State is very proactive. I'm aware that the state has 250 hectares of land in Ikorodu that is being used, that is dedicated for ranching now. We also have 750 hectares in Igodu, Nekpe, also dedicated for ranching. So it is not like the state is trying to move herders away from the roads and not provide for them. You can see in this bill also that issue of a pound is mentioned where cattle that are impounded will be kept. So it's a bill that looks at the economy of the cattle rearing, at the same time ensure that halfway is met to ensure that farmers themselves do not make a loss from the activities of cattle rearing. However, I have a couple of things I would like to add to what is currently in the bill. The issue of droving. Droving means walking your cattle on the street. It's not addressed in this bill. This is very important because people would, what the bill has talked about is cattle going into other people's land, without authorization and feeding on it. But the act of walking on your cattle on the road has to be talked about. There can't be a level of penalty involved. Of course, there has to be a maximum number of exempted, a minimum. For instance, if somebody goes and buy 1 or 2 ram in the market and is taking it up, should not follow that, what we are discussing here. But that needs to be looked at. Also, the duty of care should be talked about here. When cattle are impounded, anything can happen. They may be damaged, they may be injured, they may die. The officers handling it must have a duty of care. That should be talked about. And also, if it happens, what happens? Is either the law exonerates them, protects them, or there has to be something put in there with respect to that. With those 2 points, I feel that this bill is worthy of it. Like I said, it's expedient, and we should give it the necessary push so that it be committed to the appropriate committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Tobo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues. Well, I stand this morning to support the bill, and based on my conviction that open grazing brings a lot of embarrassment to us in Nigeria and Lagosians in general, where you see a cattle going to a classroom as if the cattle is coming to learn books. Then, equally, it has affected people's business, where you see cattle moving into your farm, destroying the whole entire farm products. Then the security threats, where you see cattle killing people and the herders carrying dangerous weapons to ensure they are protecting their cattle at the detriment of people's life. And Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, is socially unacceptable. We feel we should stop this in totality. Having said that, sir, I observed some just minor amendments in section 2(5), where they said they pay 100,000 per head or as a whole. I feel we should look at this area, sir. Then the approval to do enclosed grazing, the clearance. In my own opinion, I feel cattle rearing is major business of Ministry of Agriculture. So including Ministry of Environment, I feel it may not be necessary so that there will be no clash of interest or duty. Then, Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, they said report of the impounding of cattle to at least in court. So I feel there should be a time frame. If you arrest these cattle and put them in pound, you see, within 1 month, within 1 week, within 2 weeks, it must be taken to court, or the report taken to court for court to tell us what should be done on it. Sir, I feel, sir, that penalty for forcibly opposing the seizure of cattle should carry a more severe punishment. Because you know these people, they have arrows, they have bows, cutlass, and guns sometimes. So if they resist, and we are just giving them small punishment, that means they may be encouraged to continue to fight the officers. So I feel there should be more punishment. On the 14th, sir, on 14, section 14, when owner claim the cattle and pay the fines and costs, I feel it's not the duty of the government to go and deliver the cattle. They should come and they should release the cattle. It should bear the burden of taking the cattle back to where the cattle is supposed to be, rather than giving the government the burden of taking the cattle to that person in his house or in his farm. So I feel when you release it to him, he take it, and if he move it on the street, they arrest him again. Then, sir, on page 50, on section 15(2), that the owner, that when they sell the cattle, they remove the money expenditure incurred and return the money to that person. Somebody who has heir, I feel the money should be paid to a dedicated account or an account of the government. Once he has lost, that will be a deterrent. So that next time, in my own opinion, he will not want to do such thing. Finally, sir, like what Honorable Ishau said, in case the cattle is in custody and the cattle die, the government official should be exonerated so that they will not bear the burden of a cattle that die in their custody. So that's my contribution, sir. Thank you very much.
Honorable Sir, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The Right Honourable Speaker. I also want to lend my voice to this very important bill, in the sense that it is so important to us, especially at this time in this nation. The Yoruba will say, "Umbo, umbo, I will hand it that day." In this instance, we are having challenges all over in other parts of Nigeria, and sometimes we behave as if we don't have that kind of problem in Lagos. In order to avoid it, we must preempt it. Sir, I recall a particular time when we went for oversight function in one of the schools, and we were embarrassed with cattle right inside the school on that particular day. We had to wait for the cattle bearers to take their cattle away before we could conduct our oversight function. That is right here in Lagos State. So this law is extremely very good for us to preempt whatever will happen in this state. But there are some stations that we may need to look into with open mind. Section 2, subsection 1 has taken care of the penalty. But in section 5, it's talking about 100,000 naira, is it per head or individual? Now, it also mentions the issue of any person who owns a cattle. Of course, people own cattle, not necessarily for rearing. It's not all the time people rear cattle. There are people who own cattle in their house, and ownership of cattle is not the crime. It is the grazing, open grazing, that is the crime. So I think we need to define that properly. Then the issue of relying on Nigerian police to enforce this law, to some extent, it's because we don't have enough police, and we have been clamoring for state police. We don't have that, but we have neighborhood watch in Lagos. So I'm of the humble opinion that we will have to involve the neighborhood watch, especially in the local areas, so that they can assist us in enforcing this particular law. Then, lastly, sir, the issue of compensation for the farm owner, like one of my colleagues just mentioned. We have had cases where just ordinary walking through a farm, they damage crops. So they're not even waiting to eat there. Walking through the camps, they have the damaged crops. So such instances, how do we compensate them? And we have that all over the state. So I want to plead that we look into those gray areas so that we can, have a holistic law. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Sir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir, and distinguished colleagues. I think this bill is apt and is right on time. It's the in thing across the nation now. And if Nigeria and Lagos State at large is moving towards development, economic growth, and progress, I think we should do what is reasonable and what is sensible. According to what Honorable Ishawa said about Lagos moving towards smart city, and with the readiness of Lagos State government by providing hectares of land, both at Ikorodu and Epe, for pastoral farming, I believe vividly that there are two types of farming, the pastoral farming and the crop farming. The crop farmer has reason for going into crop farming, while the pastoral farmer has reason for going into pastoral farming. I believe the activity of the pastoral farming must not endanger the profit or the expectation of the crop farmer. So the two should be seen vis-a-vis. And if we weigh the advantages and disadvantages of open grazing to our economy and to the nation at large, you will find out that it causes desertification, it causes encroachment of our environment, it causes communal clashes, it causes inter-religious, it causes inter-ethnic clashes, and it also culminates to high crime rate in most of the southern parts and the northern part that we have most of these issues. And it affects our environmental, the environmental impact assessment of where you keep about 500 to 1,000 heads of cattle. By the time you go for the following week, you look at it, you find out that we are contributing to the environment, and you know globally what environmental impact is causing around the world now. So Lagos State, as a proactive city, we must move in line and make sure that we raise our GDP by making sure that we encourage the crop farming to balance their activity vis-a-vis of the pastoral farming in line with the best practices, so that as you are doing this, the other man will be doing the other farming, and at the end of the day, we'll be able to contribute and protect lives and properties of people, communal people that are settlers in that place. So it exposes us to even the bill that we did before we went on recess, whereby we say animal rights and stuff, even this bill that we did is even supporting this, because even the life of animal that you people are allowed to graze freely on open ground, at the end of the day, what can you get from some of these animals? Because they are exposed to drudgery, they are famine animal. But when you keep animal in a ranching, when they are well protected, they don't allow you find out that their nourishment will come up. I think it's a better practice, and I want to support my colleagues to please all of us to support this bill so that to make Lagos economy more and more in times of agriculture by having investors confidence, because it is when we do the right thing that investors will have more confidence to come and invest in agricultural practices. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Bakinde.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. I think what we are discussing here today, we need to give it to the Southwest Governor for their believing in their people and the yearning of the Southwest people and Nigeria at large. The bill we are discussing here today to the world, to the advanced country, is not a new thing. But to some of us who are living behind the time, we see it as a noble thing we are doing. Open grazing is an archaic way of rearing animal. And then you discover that the quantum of beef you get from the open grazing cattle is much lesser than the one you rear in a pond or ranching. So economically, it's more viable, it's more practicable to engage in ranching. And then, aside from that, some of these cattle that they put roaming about, they're exposed to series of diseases, as Honorable Said have said. So, what the governor came up to do is a noble one, and I want to give to them. And if you go to section 11, for whosoever that forcefully opposes the seizure of the cattle or forcefully retrieves the same, the time of imprisonment is not commensurate to the offense the person has committed. And in terms of the money, 6 months imprisonment and 250,000 naira. Let's assume 250 cattle or 300 cattle, and you are charging 250,000 naira. You are only encouraging those whosoever that are engaging in such a thing to continue, because if you pay 250, you can still move to another area doing the same. So what I'm only saying that the penalty should be more stiffer than what we are finding here. And if you go to section 15, sub 2, it shows that the government is not only want to make it a kind of punitive things. They say that the balance of purchase, whatever fines, and after deducting the transportation or whatever, the balance will be remitted back to the cattle who's doing the open grazing. So it shows that the government, they are magnanimous in dealing with this and encouraging them to put their cattle in a pond. And section 18, I want us to expand the scope. It's not to cause damage to the public utility alone, but of the private and corporate bodies or body harms to human when they are pushing these cattle around the street. At times, these cattle attack individuals. They attack vehicles on motion. Even the one they parked, they broke windscreen. So section 18 should be more encompassing so that we won't have need to be, come to review the bill after becoming law in a short while. Thank you very much.
Honorable Sonny.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me yet another opportunity to speak. Mr. Speaker, this bill is long overdue. It is apt and it is timely also. I must say, Mr. Speaker, that open cattle grazing is archaic, untrendy, unfashionable, and condemnable. In Senate climes, we're talking about value chain improvement, value chain development of cattle, talking about artificial insemination, talking about cattle fattening, and the value chain therefrom, getting wool, meat, milk, hides and skin, and tannery products. We are here walking cow from north to south. It's unfortunate. Sometimes my quietness, while ruminating about governance in Nigeria, I often think we are bewitched or either we are under spell with the way we handle things. Look at what is happening abroad in terms of cattle value chain development. We are still walking cow from south to north, or from north to south. It's unfortunate, but I thank, Mr. Speaker, I thank the entire members of the House of Lagos State for coming up with this bill to address all of these untoward tendencies. Mr. Speaker, even our neighbor here in Ghana, they have embraced ranching. Go to Afram region in Ghana. The government of Ghana has embraced ranching. That's what they're doing there, and they're expanding it to other regions of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, coming to the bill itself, of particular interest to me is clause 2, subclause 1 to 5, which provides in clear terms the seriousness and sternness and graduality of punishment for offenders of this law bill if it comes to law. The punishment for offenders ranges from fines of 50,000 naira to 50,000 naira, cattle impoundment, going through court processes, imprisonment, auctioning, and all that. It is good. It is good for us, and it makes a lot of sense. The bill, under clause 4, also frowned at carrying firearms. I think the punishment for that is 21 years. That is also good, sir. Clause 3 has to do with obtaining approval before starting ranching business. It's also good. That is to regulate the business space. Mr. Speaker, clause 7, 1 to 5 talks about the establishment of task force on cattle trespass. This, we were told in the bill that police, neighborhood watchers, and other arm of law enforcement agencies will take charge of that. Mr. Speaker, I want to say in strong terms that our neighborhood watchers will go a long way helping to address the challenges that I am envisaging. And if civilian JTF can be carrying weapons, why not our neighborhood watchers that is established by law, why not weaponize them to support this cause? It will go a long way in addressing all of the issues. In all, Mr. Speaker, this is a very good bill. It is timeless, it is apt, long overdue, and coming to bring it to the fore is the most sensible thing to do. I thank you, sir.
Honorable Rai. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to at least speak to this bill. Well, to me, This bill is a necessity to all Lagosians. A necessity in the sense that it will bring succor to our local farmer and also encourage our youth to really participate in farming. My own advisor, I will employ the government, Sierra Lagos State government. If truly we are ready for this law, they should try to encourage our youth by at least the access to the ranching site should be more encouraged. Not only millionaires that can at least have access to when it comes to allocation to people. And secondly, sir, in section 6, sir, appointment and duty of cattle farms keepers. I can see that the Commissioner for Agriculture shall appoint officers from the Ministry of Agriculture as cattle pandas keeper. I don't know if we can define the farm keeper, maybe is it grade level 6, or are they going to be veterinary doctors that they will appoint? That is my observation. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I want to thank you all for your contributions, and I also agree with you that this is a very good bill, and it is a bill that is timely. As we said in our previous session, where we commended the Southern governors for taking this bold initiative, it is good that we are also taking this part this afternoon to put in place a law that will regulate the activities of the cattle rearers. And I think it's a good one. It is a bill when it becomes law that will ensure harmonious coexistence between the cattle rearers and the farmers, because it's something that will regulate the activities of each one of them. And at the same time, it's going to protect our environment from the abuse and degradations by those moving their cows from one place to another. Many streams have been polluted and so many others fertile land destroyed. I think it's a very good one. But before we get to this stage, I think the law should also make a provision where coordination should be considered. We need to identify those the cattle rearers, the need to register them, and the need to prepare them for ranching. This is an idea that is alien to most of them, but taking them away from what they are used to into a new idea, there must be a process. You can't just bring them from point A to B without initiating them. And I think we still have, as a government, we have a role to play if really we want to achieve this. Allocating parcel of land is not enough. There must be consideration for training. We need to put them through. There must be financial support, as we have read from the expert, that it is more expensive running ranches than, running their cows in the forest. So all these we have to consider to ensure that we achieve peace largely. Taking them away from this to another place will not solve the problem. What we are driving at is to ensure that the farmers also have opportunity to practice their own profession without hindrance. So to achieve that, I think we should consider this while we are addressing this bill. On this note, this bill is hereby committed to House Committee on Agriculture to report back on Thursday. Yeah, Deputy Majority Leader.
Right, Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, House of Assembly Bill number 35, supported by Honorable Agumbiade SOB, Majority Leader, Honorable Adams MB Etiosa 1, Honorable Mrs. Miranda ML Apapa 1, Honorable Mrs. Shongodara MR Sululeri 2, Honorable Olowo R.E. Shomolu 1, Honorable Olumo SL Ajiromi Ifelodun 1, Honorable Makinde R.L. Ifakojayi 2, Honorable Sholaja Saka N. Ikorodu 2, Honorable Idimogu J.E. Oshodi Isolo 2, Honorable Layode I.O. Badagry 1, Honorable Oshu M.O. Lagos Mainland 2, Honorable Engineer Yishao G.O.R. Etiosa 2. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I move that a bill for a law to impose and charge value-added tax on certain goods and services provided for the administration of the tax and for related matters for second reading. I so move, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise to second the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
Distinguished honorable members, it's a great honor and privilege to read for the second time a bill for the law to impose and change value-added tax on certain goods and services provided for the administration of the tax and for related matters. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues. Value-added tax is an indirect tax levied on expenditure, and it is being paid by final consumers on goods and services. Value-added tax was introduced as far back as 1954 in France before it started spreading all over developed countries in the world. Value-added tax was introduced in Nigeria in 1993 by the Value-Added Tax Act of 1993. In 1994, Nigeria started the full operation of value-added tax. In that 1994, Nigeria generated 8.189 billion in 1994. In 1995, Nigeria generated 21 billion naira. CBN report of 2015 shows that a total of 1.97 trillion was generated in 2015 in the first 6 months in 2015. According to National Bureau of Statistics, in 2019, Nigeria generates a total sum of 1.18 trillion that was remitted to our federal account. But in 2020, 1.53 trillion was generated, and Lagos State alone contributed 55%. If we were to look at that 55% of that 1.5 trillion, it will give us 841 billion naira. Mr. Speaker, sir, if they are getting this 841 billion naira from Lagos State as a whole, and if the money we are getting back from the federal allocation is a peanut, Mr. Speaker, I think this bill is very, very important to Lagos State. If this bill is passed into law, one, there will be more employment for our youth. Two, it will jack up our revenue in the state. Mr. Speaker, sir, again, I would like to commend the ruling of Justice Stephen Palm of the Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt on suit FHCPH CX 149-2020, given on the 10th of August 2021, declared that the federal government, through its agency FRS, has no right collecting value-added tax and personal income tax in any state of the federation. The judgment is an eye-opener to all the states. Mr. Speaker, I just want to submit by saying that if we go to page 4, subsection 4 of this bill, yes, I want to advise that probably we should start from 5%. I look at that 6%, that we should just start from 5%. That is my observation. And two, again, if we go to page 14, section 33 as well, they talk about 75% to the state government and 25% to the local government. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to advise that in as much as we are trying to encourage our local government, I want them to function properly, I would advise that 70% should go to the state and 30% should go to the local government. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, this particular bill before us today is definitely timely and apt. One of the reasons why I say so was beautifully presented by the Deputy Majority Leader, who took us down memory lane of the history of value-added tax and what it does for the nation and obviously the state. But speaking to this bill, however, Mr. Speaker, Section 16, subsection 2 of this law, where it reads that an importer of taxable goods shall pay to the service the tax on the goods before clearing. Let's not forget, Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, the responsibilities of customs in relation to import duties remittance, as outlined in the executive list of the Constitution under the second schedule, under item 58 and 59, part 2, that talks about stamp duties and taxation of incomes. So this is one area that I feel should be looked into in terms of feasibility, vis-a-vis the second schedule, part 2, item 789, as prescribed by the 1999 Constitution as amended. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, Section 21 of this bill, in terms of establishment and composition of VAT tribunal office, it is my opinion, Mr. Speaker, that it should be decentralized, just like our tax offices within the state. One tribunal office is not enough. We can go by divisions, or we can also go by senatorial districts in line with the bill, so as to cater widely for various issues on VAT. Section 33 of this bill, in terms of distribution of revenue, this will increase the revenue by 75% to 25% between the state and local government, as opposed to what is currently obtainable, where the federal government remits out of a possible 100%, 15% does go to the federal, 50% goes to the state, and 35% to the local government respectively. Currently, there's a sharing formula of 50% that comes to Lagos when Lagos State, as earlier mentioned, remits over 500 billion in VAT. The 50% by virtue of being a state, according to state, derivation, and population. However, we only get about 69 billion in allocation. If we can truthfully achieve, with all of this bill now, if we can actually truthfully achieve an actual 1 trillion in Lagos State, in line with our trillion budget, when grossing such an amount monthly. Imagine what this will do for our IGL if it is state-controlled. Mr. Speaker, with this law, Lagos State will be at a better advantageous position and satisfying the yearnings of our people, and of course, in line with enjoying the dividends of democracy. Finally, Mr. Speaker, there is a precedent with the recent judgment in River State, which means that it will also apply to other states and not just River State. This means, however, that the administration of VAT within the territory, and of course, by implication, FIRS would only administer within the FCT, and of course, things that have to do with non-import foreign VAT, while Nigerian customs, as earlier mentioned, will continue to collect import VAT on international trade. With this, it goes a long way to shoot the economy of Lagos State up furthermore, in line with what is already being generated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this.
Honorable Togo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank God that we are doing this today on this hallowed chamber. Well, like we all know that value-added tax, indirect tax on consumptions and services. But then, Mr. Speaker, when we have to look at it, Lagos State, people drink alcohol, they smoke cigarettes, and we pay taxes on it, and take that money to share to those states that banned alcohol and cigarettes.
injustice. Secondly, the revenue that were supposed to come to the state covers were not coming. They were talking to Central Pool for sharing, knowing fully that the state is responsible for the citizens and residents. Pressure on our road, pressure on our hospitals, pressure on so many infrastructures were not being taken care of centrally. They were being taken care of by the state. We feel the revenue must be generated and must be spent at the state as affected. Is an eye-opener that the judge has announced that each state should generate its revenue. And Mr. Speaker, if we're able to tell this true, at least it will reduce double taxation, where the state will collect a revenue and the federal government will come to collect another revenue on the same premise. As practiced in an advanced world, what revenue are generated by the states, they contribute their own quota to the central purse, not the central generating and sending to us. At least America, where they have 50 states, they generate their revenue on their area of comparative advantage, where they have a capacity to generate and contribute to the central covers. Not the federal government collecting the state's revenue and sending token to the states, a federal collecting revenue and sending tokens to the state government. Mr. Speaker, I feel with this, we need to look at it and see how we give it a speedy passage. But having said that, sir, I just noticed some...
Can you please wrap it up?
Yes, I'm trying to wrap it up, sir. I just want to speak to the bill directly. Sir, on page remittance of tax, I want to section 12, subsection 1. Since we are going to give part of the tax to the local government, let local government be covered. Every ministry, state body, or other government agency, including the local government, shall at the time of making payment to a contractor remit same to the state. Let the local government be involved, because whatever we generate, we are going to give local government. So if local government is paying contractor, they must remit same to the, then...
Thank you, Honorable Tabo.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Honorable Solado.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and my colleagues. Well, the bill is overdue. Mr. Speaker's value-added tax is collected on production of every product at every stage to the productions during the which it added value to it. And Mr. Speaker, as of today, if you go to US, Michigan basically believe in value-added tax and is their major resources of revenue. And without missing any word from what my colleagues have said, value-added tax is being collected, 90%, 80% is collected from Lagos State, and peanut is being brought back to the state by less than 10 billion. When you generate 800 billion and above, and 10 billion is being given to us, it's a serious slap on us. And like what the Honorable Tobab just said, the state that have not, that they said they ban this and this and this and that, some items of production in their countries or in their state, they are collecting this money. So it is better that the state should collect value-added tax. I thank God that the River State have won that first stage. And Mr. Speaker, sir, if you look at this value-added tax, it's going to help a lot in terms of development, in terms of infrastructures in the state. And Mr. Speaker, I also refer you to section 33, where they mention the distribution sharing ratio. I agree that the sharing ratio should be whether 25 or 35 or more, but I believe in 35% because of what? The money collected today should be able to share equally to local government. You should not use derivation. If you use derivation, then it definitely will affect the rural area. And that is the reason why they need to give them on equal so that they can develop. At the end of the day, they can levelize with other metropolitan that have been generating a lot of revenue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Budget.
Good afternoon, sir.
If you recollect vividly, this bill before us came in form of motion in year 2012, and the said motion was introduced by you, sir, seeking for redistribution of the value-added, the proceeds from value-added tax. It is a good one. If you look at it today, as rightly put by Honorable Sholaja, Lagos State account for over 60% of the state tax revenues, and what we get in return is 5%, because according to the statistic, we account for over 50 billions, and what we get every month is less than 11 billion, which is 5%. However, I have some observation in some of the section, particularly section 4, portions to the Revenue Act of 2020, which set the VAT rate at 7.5%. And what we have in this proposed bill is 6%. It contradicts the Revenue Act of 2020. Also, section 12, subsection 1 is not too clear. The implication of this subsection suggests withholding tax, which is a different tax and should be legislated differently. And section 21 talks about the compositions of the appeal tribunals. I'm of opinion that the chairman of the appeal tribunal should be subjected to the confirmations of this house. And also of opinion that the members of the appeal should be a qualified chartered institute of the taxations of the Nigeria, so that they can be able to render their professionals' opinions when it comes to the issues of the tax. Thank you very much, sir.
Honorable Shah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, once again. I must commend my colleagues for what has been said on this bill. It's very deep, very rich. I would also want to remind us that the VAT Act, which used to be, what do you call them now? A decree, yes, a 1993 decree, has all the elements of a decree. A decree is always unitary, brings everything to the center, and that is what has happened with this act. Section 315 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, states that those decrees must be brought into conformity with the Constitution, which is a democratic constitution. This has not been done, and that is where we have been at this stage all this while. Well, I'm happy with what has happened in the Federal High Court, where the court had declared absolutely that the federal government does not have the right to collect VAT. It is a subject for the state government. And based on that, that has allowed our state to put forward this bill, which is to look at the framework with which we will be able to collect and administer this VAT. The benefit of this is endless. First of all, you can see that the people paying the VAT will see development where the VAT is paid. In the first instance, why is the consumption tax? Because VAT is a consumption tax. Why is it heavily paid on this side, particularly Lagos, which has 65% of the VAT that is paid annually? It's because Lagos has invested in its community. Lagos has invested in its society. That's why it becomes the haven for people that want to spend money, and that is why we can get that level of VAT. So the people paying the VAT will be able to benefit from that VAT, because Lagos will plow that money back into infrastructure, roads, transport, rail lines, schools, hospitals, and the rest of it. So that's a great benefit. Of course, it will create employment, massive employment within the community. If you look at the statistics, this last year alone, Lagos State contributed 770 billion naira, 65% of the VAT collection for 2020. And Lagos State received 131 billion thereabouts. If the states were collecting the VAT by themselves, even the 770 billion what we collect will be much more than that. Because, of course, we put machinery in place to ensure that we collect the VAT, because we know the benefit is coming to our state. These are massive benefits that the state will get from this bill if and when it is passed. 500 billion naira, like one of my colleagues said, currently our budget is 1.16 trillion thereabout. But of course, we know we probably will not make $1 trillion. With this kind of money, we will definitely make that ₦1 trillion budget, and we'll be able to provide the infrastructure for the state. And the leakages will be blocked because it's very close to home. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think it is a bill that should be supported. I think it's a bill that its time has come, and we seize that moment and ensure that it puts in the appropriate committee to look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues. Unfortunately, I would have turned off my light because...
You can still go ahead.
No, I'm not done, sir. Because Honorable Isha has said almost everything. However, I'm very happy to support this bill because it goes to show that the judgment from the Federal High Court is in the direction of true federalism. It goes to show that states that generate revenue and put in the coffers of the federal government will be able to spend what they generate. Mr. Speaker, with the growing concern of population in Lagos State with the estimated value of 6,000 people influx, and yet the Lagos State government has not yet received the special status, I think the special status we are looking for is what we are going to see if the VAT is collected by the state and is spent by the state. Mr. Speaker, Lagos State government, or Lagos State itself, is suffering from infrastructural deficit. We have in the health sector, the educational sector, the transport sector, the environment, and we have shortage in terms of finances to get these things done. Mr. Speaker, if the said 55% generated by Lagos State is paid to Lagos State, I think it will go a long way in infrastructural development within the state. Mr. Speaker, so I also want to support this bill, and I pray it has a speedy passage. Thank you.
Honorable Setonji.
Yeah, the Right Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank you for this, for giving me the second opportunity. This bill is very, very important to us in Lagos State, and it's very apt. I recall that the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Shibaju, some time ago, was urging the states to test our laws, to test the Constitution in court. And Lagos State have been doing that for a long time. I remember during the days of Ashwaju that there were so many laws that were tested at the court and Lagos State won. That's why I want to give kudos to Rivers State government for what they have done to test it, because we are actually losing in Lagos State. We generate more than 50% and we get less than 10% of what we generate. So this is very good for us. I am in total support of it, and I want this law to pass. Sir, but bearing that in mind, Section 33 talks about distribution of revenue. I think we should get to a level whereby we should be encouraging the local governments by dispersing development. Development should not be limited to only the metropolis. So let us empower them. I'm of the humble opinion that we suggest that they give the state retains 60% and give 40% to the local governments, so that local governments can have enough fund to develop their area. Also, sir, on section 4, that has to do with the percentage of the VAT that we're charging. Just like one of my colleagues mentioned, that the existing law, it's talking about 7.5%. Why can't we up ours to that level? That's my humble opinion. By and large, I will support this bill. Thank you, sir.
I greet you, sir, the Right Honorable Speaker, and my colleagues. I'm adding my voice to this important bill that we have before us this afternoon, and I will say that it's very apt and it's very timely. Sticking to the bill, sir, I noticed that Section 21, subsection 1A, that talks about appeal tribunal chairman, that you don't need to have a legal luminaries every time as appeal chairman or head of district. So instead of that, just as Honorable Majid has said, we should inform the tax consultants, because what we are talking about has to do with fact. Secondly, sir, on section 23, the 3 years, I suggest that it should be raised to 4 years term instead of 3 years that we have here, sir. Then the notification of change of address, I equally suggest the 10,000 naira that was put there as penalty, that should be jacked up to 100,000 naira. Then lastly, on that one too, sir, the issue of 60 to 40% sharing ratio that Honorable Setoji mentioned, I believe it's better that we take it to 60 to 40. In conclusion, sir, I want to say that the more fat that we have in Lagos State, the more revenue or income will generate, and the more prosperous Lagos State will be. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Sir.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me yet another opportunity to speak. Well, this bill is very good. It has defined VAT as an indirect form of tax meant to distribute wealth between the poor and the wealthy. We have also looked at how, at this time of austerity, so to speak, our revenue in Lagos State can be enhanced. However, sir, I want to speak to the gender sensitivity of this bill. It assumes that everything about this bill is meant for men. So if we look at section 14.1, 15.2, 16.1, 27 and 32, I think the drafter of this bill should look at it critically so that it can be gender sensitive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, for giving me the opportunity once more. I want to tackle it from the SWOT analysis. If you look at our strength is that we have good, viable, financial hub, technological hub in Lagos State. We also have goods that are consumed. And if you look at the stress on our infrastructures, especially our roads, when was it last that the Etiosa-Ibeju-Lekki road was constructed? But go there now, government is coming back to put a lot of money. Why? Just because of the passage of vehicular movement on that road. What are they carrying? They are carrying goods from points of production to points of consumption. And if we cannot really account, if we cannot give account of some of these movements in terms of value for cash, I think we are not yet there as a state that is desirous of making progress technologically, financially, because this VAT we are talking about, it comprises of both financial services and consumption goods. So if you look at, we have communication giants in Lagos State, we have technological giants set up in Lagos State, we have all of them. So if we aggregate all their production yearly, monthly, and we receive peanuts according to what Honorable Ishao has said, we receive over 500 billion, and it is just a paltry sum that is returned to Lagos State. And we have challenges in security, we have challenges in electricity, we have challenges in education. Our health facility is overstressed. That was the more we must keep on to commend Lagos State government. During the NSAS, the first NSAS that was recorded was not in Lagos State. It was an imported case into Lagos State because of the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos State. And we receive charges on most of these things and we cannot have access to it. So I will lend my voice to what all my colleagues have said, that what belongs to Lagos State must be fought with the whole of our brain in making sure that the people that elected us here see the benefit while we are representing them. So I want to employ all my colleagues to please give this bill a speedy passage so that Lagos State can take its position in the Committee of Nations that is ready and desirous for development. Thank you.
Honorable Jude.
Good afternoon, my honorable members. Good afternoon, my speaker.
I also want to add my voice on this VAT issue. I believe with the VAT, when at the end of the day we succeed in passing the bill to law and it's being put effectively, the issue of special status will always demand from the federal government they even come to pass, because I think the reason for special status is resources to help build Lagos. When you consider the series of population in Lagos State, the infrastructure decadence we are passing through, and the mass heavyweight, I would say, that Lagos economy experience. VAT in particular, when you compare with what is happening at the Niger Delta area, where you talk about crude oil money, at least this one will also serve as our own resources, because Lagos State, considering what happened here in consumption, in services, the population is there, the services is there, the environment gives room for all this. But at the end of the day, we discover that Lagos State does not earn as much as possible from when you compare with the contribution they make at the federal level. So for me, it's a good one, and I pray that, because I read somewhere that even the case that happened in the River State, one northern state was saying they are going to challenge it. Of course, we expect that to come, but I know that we'll put our acts together and support, the whole state support themselves, we'll get over this. And this one will lead us to the area where we're talking about true federalism. People should be more accountable. Let the state harness whatever resources they can have and also build that state. So I want to support this bill, and I pray that at the end of the day, we shall all succeed. Thank you. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you all. I thank you all for your contributions, and I also agree with you from all you have said concerning what Lagos stands to benefit with this law. At the end of the day, there is no doubt about it that there will be increase in revenue and increase in infrastructural development and more fund at the disposal of the state government. Well, I think this should be more addressed in the area of physical federalism that we've been talking about, the need for the state to be empowered, the need to give the states more opportunities to develop in terms of governance, particularly on the area of revenue generations. More opportunities should be given to states so that they can address challenges facing them. As we have said, in Lagos, there is a lot of challenges facing this administration, not this administration, the Lagos State as a whole. I talk about the schools, you talk about hospitals, you talk about roads, you talk about security, which is highly challenging. You talk about so many things. I think this is a very good one for the state, not only Lagos State, and I want to urge the state government to continue to give everything to this litigation going on, because it has been appealed by FIRS and other states are also supporting FIRS. So we also must do everything to make sure that this judgment is being sustained till the last cause. I mean, that is the Supreme Court, if need be. Most of us also talked about sharing formula. I think the major thing that we should think about, looking at what Lagos State stands to benefit from this and addressing what we have generated in terms of VAT. According to statistics at the disposal of the government, at least almost 500 billion alone from Lagos State, while almost 300 billion from other Southwest states, making 800 billion from Southwest only, at least about 70% or 80%. Now, like into or compared to the other regions as well. So what we should be thinking on our side is to dedicate certain percentage to those things that are so essential to us in Lagos State. You talk about the school, I think a certain percentage should be dedicated to our education, hospitals, securities, and infrastructures before we start thinking about sharing formula, because this affects all the chairs of government in the state. They talk about the local government. There's hardly any local government that we do not have primary school, secondary school, and at the same time, our police station, our roads, and everything. So I think this is the way we should go about it. The first thing, we get the law passed. The second thing, we give support to the judgments being given so far that say the to the last race of it, where those who are appealing can come to realization that the provision of the Constitution cannot be challenged. And also, it's an opportunity for us to ask again the need for consideration to practice what we call constitutional democracy and allow true physical federalism to reign in our system. On this note, this bill is hereby committed to House Committee on Finance to report back on Thursday. Yeah, before we go, we also have a letter from Mr. Governor, the Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Mr. Clark, can you quickly run through this?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, sir. We received a letter dated September 2nd, 2020, addressed to the Right Honorable Speaker, Lagos State House of Assembly. Dear Honorable Speaker, reordering of priorities under the year 2021 budget. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to you and other honorable members of the Lagos State House of Assembly for your ongoing support and cooperation as we work to deliver on our electoral promises to the people through the development and implementation of strong socio-economic policies. Please recall that the year 2021 implementation was predicated on 10 objectives hitherto identified to accomplish the Greater Lagos Development Agenda that was designed on the themes framework. Furthermore, you may kindly recall that the year 2021 approved budget was signed into law 31st December 2021 to demonstrate the administration commitment to deliver the dividend of democracy to the citizen through the execution of Greater Lagos development. I would like to highlight that while revenue performance at 75%, i.e. 377.6 billion versus the 485.6 billion target, the performance of recurrent and capital expenditure closed at 89% and 76% respectively. The overall budget performance therefore closed strongly at 82%, that is 474.6 billion for the period ended 30th June 2021. I want to use this opportunity to thank Mr. Speaker and the entire House for your speedy approval of my request for 85 billion special dispensation bond, which will allow the state to access the bond market and a domestic loan from a commercial bank at a discounted rate of 9.25%. This has been recognized in this proposed year 2021 budget amendment and is the main purpose for it. The objective of the special dispensation approval request, as earlier explained, was to pay off more expensive bond stock, replace them with more cheaper bonds, resulting in cost saving for the state. Consequently, it has become imperative to shift spending to the aforementioned high priority projects and reduce votes in budget lines that are not pacing our execution expectation as a result of various operational challenges. This shift in spending shall complement self-funding projects, i.e. bonds and dedicated revenue support project programs that shall be admitted in the proposed revised budget. The proposed revised budget shall lead to an increase in the total budget size from 1.16 billion to 1.256 billion, a 92.34 billion increase, with an increase of 56.659 billion and 35.679 billion in capital and recurrent expenditure respectively, thus giving a capital to recurrent ratio of 60 to 40. It is in view of the foregoing, the Honorable House is hereby invited to kindly consider the proposal for the revision of the year 2021 budget. I look forward to a favorable and prompt consideration of these proposals in line with our collective effort towards finding lasting solutions to the various challenges attributable to the usual limited resources available to the state. Please accept the assurances of my highest regard, as always, for you and the honorable members of the State House of Assembly. Signed Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu, Governor of Lagos State. Thank you very much, sir.
Having listened to the letter from Mr. Governor, I hereby rule that the reading be taken as first reading. All in favor say aye. Those against no, the ayes have it. I will be addressing the second reading of it at the next sitting. Mr. Clerk, kindly circulate copies to members. Your Deputy Majority Leader.
Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I have the approval of the Right Honorable Speaker that this House adjourn till 9th September, Thursday, 2021. I so move.
Who is seconded? Honorable Hasim Rahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved.
Before the question is put, there will be a short meeting immediately after sitting. This House stands adjourned to Thursday, 9 September 2021 at 10 a.m. prompt. I rise.